Hey everybody, this is Tom again in Western North Carolina, and this is going to be the next episode in the How to Make a Shaving Horse. And it's, how I make a shaving horse. Not necessarily, there's lots of different ways to make a shaving horse. And anyways, that last episode I showed you, I was drilling a bunch of holes in these things to bolt this together. If you're never going to take your thing apart, if you're never going to take your shaving horse apart again, you don't necessarily have to bolt it together. You could just screw this whole thing together and it would just be a one-piece thing, and it would be a little harder if you wanted to transport it. And the reason that I bolt them together, I bolt every one I make together, the reason is that most of these get shipped UPS, and so they have to be able to come apart and be put back together. So that's why I bolt them. But these holes here for the front legs, you could screw the front leg in. You could screw the backup spacer and the back legs on. You could even screw this backup head in place. And if you wanted to do it like that, the only hole that you would need in these rails would be this here pivot hole. Because that does have to be a place where the thing can pivot. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there to you. It's probably too late, but maybe not. So now this episode, I'm going to show you how to sand the edges all around here, and I'm not going to do it in front of you. It's just boring sanding, but I'll show you what I'm after when I do that step. And then I'm going to show you how I route the edges on these here, and I'll probably show you that. I'll try to be quick about it. I don't want this to get too long. But anyways, the sanding step is once I have the holes drilled, I bring it over here and I have my belt sander. I've got 80 grit. I use 80 grit sandpaper in all my sanders. This belt sander, my stationary sander, and my drum sander. It's all 80 grit. You know, this is not fine furniture. It's a tool, and I think that that's good enough. And mostly what I'm using sanding for is to remove material. I'm not trying to get a high luster finish. I'm just trying to get a shape and smoothness. Anyways, when I bring this over here, the sander basically is going to sand all the way around these edges here. And so usually what I do is on these flat sides, sometimes there's burrs from these holes. I'll run my sander quick on the two flat sides. And sometimes you might need to cut out some little burrs out of these holes. I've already done that on these pieces, but they'll get out of there eventually. But then I'll set this up like so and clamp it right up here. And right now I usually take a square, and right here where this place meets up, if I need to, I'll put a little line across there just to make those, so I know where those are in line with each other. So when I sand, I kind of sand to that line. And then I'll put another line about a 1/4 inch back from that corner right there. And that is a guide for me when I go to put the little chamfer on here, how far in to make that. And then once I've got it clamped in this position, I take my sander, I put a chamfer on this end right here, I sand the end of the piece, and then I sand this section here. And right in this area here, where this radius is, That's usually the hardest place to sand because there's the most material still left in that area. because of the two different saws meeting up and stuff like that, and my planer, when I did that planer step, can't get up into that corner. So you got to spend a certain amount of time just working this area out and then trying to blend it in so it seems like it's smooth and flat right up into there. Boom, like that. Then once you get that done, I just flip it over like that. You know, it's resting right here and right here, so I have to clamp on this side of this spot here, otherwise it would just go down like that. And then when I get it in this position, I take my sander and sand this chamfer here and do this section. Then I flip it around. I'm not going to put the clamp on this time, but I would clamp it right here in the sanded spot. I would do this chamfer here and then finish up this section. Then I'd flip it over like this, clamp it right here. Then I'd do this chamfer here and do this end and then do this section here. Now it is kind of a good idea to get these to be square, especially up in this area and back here where the legs go on. You want that to be square because, again, like I said the other day, even when you're drilling those holes, the same thing holds true. If these aren't square, if this is tilted like that, when you try to add the other pieces on, you're going to have two legs and a back spacer there. When you try to add them on, it makes it very difficult to get them to all line up right. So square is good in those locations. So then once you get it sanded, the next step is to do the routing. Here's my little router again. And so there's places on this that I want to be routed, and there's places that I don't want to be routed. So I have little guides that I use, and this is one of them. It's about 3/4 by 3/4, but I put it right here, right on top of these holes here, and where the screw is. I put it right there, and I clamp it. And now back here, there's place back here where I don't want it to be routed, where the back legs are going to go on. And so I have a piece that looks like this. This is the same angle as the back here. And I line that up with this bolt hole here, around this edge, up with the edge of that bolt hole. Now I can't exactly tell you how big to make those things and exactly where to place them, because it's all dependent on how big the base of your router is. And I've got these all made for the distance between the center here and this corner right here, these two corners. And I've actually got magic marker on there to tell me that's where the guide is. And that's where I hit with the router. Those are my stops. So there's going to end up a place right here that's not routed, and there's going to end up a place right in this area, right in here and here that's not routed. All right, I'm going to go ahead and route this. Putting on my safety glasses, putting on my earmuffs. get the sandpaper. Okay, and I'm not trying to go fast there. That's just all you need to do. All I need to do to smooth that up. And so that side is routed. You know, it's routed. There's not routed there. It's not routed there. It's not routed in that area or that area. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. Put that back on, and then on this one I got the mirror image of that guy. Put it right there. Now I'm going to go around this side. Okay, you saw me right about in this area. I stopped and fiddled around a little bit. A big chip jumped out of there, and I stopped and corrected, you know, made it so it didn't rip out worse than it was going to. And sometimes I have found if you go slow, those big chips that want to tear out sometimes, big slivers, they don't happen quite as bad if you're going a little bit slower. But if you do have a big chip tear out, it's not the end of the world. As all you have to do is get your plane out or something, or sandpaper, and just smooth it out. It's not going to affect the function of your shaving horse just because you got like a tear out there on the edge. Okay, now I'm going to take these two apart. Going to set this one aside. And now I got to route the inside. And now on the inside, there's a whole big area. There's a whole big area on this front that I do not want to route, because that's right where the front leg is going to fit in here, and it's a flush fit. So there's a big area on the front that doesn't get routed at all. So instead of using this one, I use this. And I line it up again with those holes right there. So my stop is right there and right there. And I take this other piece and I set it right there just so I don't lose my head and just go around that end. And then back on this end again, I use the same thing for the back. And this end here on the back end, it gets routed around the end. And like I was telling you the other time, is the back leg is not flush with the back. It's in about a ½ an inch. Okay, so I'm route this. Okay. Now sometimes there's some little burrs where these holes are. So see, this is the inside. It's routed only to there. Starts there. This whole end up here is not routed. So I'm going to quick do this other end, or the other inside. Okay. So that one's routed now too. And now I'm going to put these back together. Try to make sure there's not a lot of sawdust and stuff in between them. But you can kind of line up the holes and get them pretty darn close. And then I'm going to go ahead and put these same screws back in. And I really want them to go right back in the same hole. They kind of find that hole on their own if you're careful about it. Anyways, there's a set of rails that's drilled, routed, sanded, everything. So I would now just set that aside and wait for the next step. Anyways, that's ongoing progress with this project, and I hope you're following along okay with it. And I had to do a repair job on my tripod after that wreck I had yesterday with it. But it's okay, it's going to still work. Anyways, I hope you're having a good day out there. And I'm having a good day here already. It's maybe about 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyways, I'm thankful for what I have. I hope you can be thankful for what you have. And just try to keep on with your project. And see you soon, I hope.